So, Psycho from 1960. I'm going to do things a little differently for introducing this film. You have been watching Hitchcock films all quarter now, and you know some things that you can look for in terms of themes and motifs, since you know what Hitchcock films are like and what kinds of things that they include. So, you can keep an eye out for those as you watch, I think, without reminders from me. I'm going to spend more time in my post viewing lecture going over some interesting production elements about Psycho, as well as themes and ideas. But in this introduction, I did want to share with you a section from the Village Voice article that you're going to be reading in full on your own to give you a sense of the impact of Psycho at the time that it was released. And then instead of my usual introduction, I'm going to have Alfred Hitchcock himself introduce the film to you in the form of his 6-minute teaser trailer that he put together that people at the time in 1960 would have seen as an advertisement for the film. You'll see that it's quite a bit different from most trailers that we see today. It's got a very Hitchcock approach as well as his sort of classic humor, and he pretends to be very squeamish about the things that he's talking about and suggests things without really going into full detail. It's really quite a great trailer, and that will be your essential setup for Psycho. But just a bit more from the Village Voice to kind of help you get some sense of what it was like for audiences at the time to experience the film. This article in the Village Voice was written in 2010, and that would have been on the 50th anniversary of the release of Psycho. And the writer and the film critic Jay Hoberman in this piece asks why Psycho was a film that crowds went so crazy for, why they lined up around the block to see it. He asks, was it the insolently blunt title, Hitchcock's hilarious first person trailer, the unprecedented print ads featuring a Hollywood star, the voluptuous Janet Leigh in a slip and a brassiere, the well publicized absence of press previews, the radio spots promising no one but no one will be admitted to the theater after the start of each performance? For according to film historian Stephen Rebello, ticket holders standing in line grilled the patrons who poured out of the theater, laughing, outraged, shaken. Asking about the ending, they were told, you gotta see it for yourself. Hoberman notes, then, to have been among the fortunate few who did see Psycho cold in late June 1960 was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. The critic William Pechter described the unique atmosphere of excited dread, spectators united before the screen in fearful anticipation. Audiences responded as though trapped on a roller coaster through the spook house with a convulsive mixture of screams and laughter. People bolted for the doors and fainted in their seats. The mayhem caused one New York theater to call the cops and others to call for censorship. He further notes, interestingly, even Hitchcock was startled by the violent response, although Psycho epitomized his theory of directing, meaning directing as manipulating the audience. A few years later, he would tell Francois Truffaut, of course, in the Truffaut interviews, that, quote, the audience is like a giant organ. At one moment, we play this note on them and get this reaction, and then we play that chord and they react that way. And someday we won't even have to make a movie. There'll be electrodes implanted in their brains, and we'll just press different buttons and they'll go ooh and ah. So there, of course, we see Hitch's fascination with and delight in manipulating us as viewers. He would never, of course, want to use actual buttons implanted in our brains, but we do note that he has the cinematic skill to get pretty darn close to pushing buttons in our brains and making us react in the ways that he wants us to react. Notably, though, Psycho would be ultimately it would be Hitchcock's greatest commercial hit, and he did make a lot of money from it on this one, even though he himself was pretty unsure of the film as he was in the middle of the production process. He wasn't at all sure that the film was going to work, which again is quite interesting. So this is the original Psycho trailer. I will play it for you here, but I have also provided a link to it below this particular video where the resolution might be slightly better. You might search around online a little bit too to see if you can find resolution that's a little bit better. But in any case, you'll at least get a sense of the way Hitchcock develops his the trailer here and the story and the buildup and the way he, again, has these little bits of humor and the way he presents information, but then also very carefully withholds information from us too. So here's the trailer, and then enjoy the movie.
Good afternoon. Here we have a quiet little motel, tucked away off the main highway, and as you see, perfectly harmless looking, when in fact, it has now become known as the scene of the crime. This motel also has, as an adjunct, an old house, which is, if I may say so, a little more sinister looking, less innocent than the motel itself. And in this house, the most dire, horrible events took place. I think we can go inside because the place is up for sale. Although I don't know who's going to buy it now. In that window on the second floor, the single one in front, that's where the woman was first seen. Let's go inside. You see, even in daylight, this place still looks a bit sinister. Now, it was at the top of these stairs that the second murder took place. She came out of the door there and met the victim at the top. Of course, in a flash, there was the knife, and in no time, the victim tumbled and fell with a horrible crash. I think the back broke immediately and hit the floor. It's difficult to describe the way that the twisting of the, but I won't dwell upon it. Come upstairs. Of course, the victim, or should I say victims, hadn't any conception as to the type of people they would be confronted with in this house, especially the woman. She was the weirdest and the most. Well, let's go into her bedroom. Here's the woman's room, still beautifully preserved. And the imprint of her figure on the bed where she used to lay. I think some of her clothes are still in this wardrobe. Bathroom. This was the son's room, but we won't go in there because his favorite spot was the little parlor behind his office in the motel. Let's go down there. This young man, you had to feel sorry for him. After all, being dominated by an almost maniacal woman was enough to drive anyone to the extreme of, well, let's go in. Well, I suppose you'd call this his hideaway. His hobby, as you see, was taxidermy. Crow here, an owl there. Now, an important scene took place in this room. There was a private supper here. And, oh, by the way, this picture has great significance because, let's go along to cabin number 1. I'll show you something there. All tidied up. The bathroom. Well, they've cleaned all this up now. Big difference. You should have seen the blood. The whole place was, well, it's too horrible to describe. Dreadful. And I'll tell you, there's a very important clue was found here. Down there. Well, the murderer, you see, crept in here very slowly. Of course, the shower was on. There was no sound. And